I'm here today with Doug Ritter of kniferights.org, and he's a knife designer as well and a longtime blogger on survival issues. I guess my first question would be, do you sometimes miss the days when you were just doing knife design and survival blogging?
Yeah. I mean, Knife Rights has become one of those careful what you wish for experiences. Mm-hmm. We've actually ended up where we wanted to be, which was making a difference and changing the laws, but it turns out to be a all-consuming sort of job. It's not a part-time avocation at all.
So of those three things, so is that's taken the 98%?
Yeah, I probably spend 90% of my time directly involved with Knife Rights, either raising funds or involved in sorting out issues for us to attack legislatively or in litigation. It just takes a tremendous amount of time. Mm-hmm. But we're making a difference. I mean, when you look at what we've accomplished.
I can carry a switchblade in Tennessee.
And there's no length limit.
No.
So it's a wonderful feeling knowing that what we're doing is making a difference to literally millions of Americans. Mm-hmm. I mean, we really are rewriting knife law in America, something that hadn't been touched in decades.
Mm-hmm. How do you think we got to where we were 10, 15 years ago? From a time when everyone's grandfather couldn't imagine being caught dead without a pocket knife.
Well, I mean, it started out in the 1950s with the Federal Switchblade Act and many of the states that sort of followed along with their restrictions on switchblades, dirks, daggers, and stilettos. And then as in recent decades, as knives moved from tools to weapons in the minds of a lot of urban dwellers who don't use a knife every day, that impacted society's concept of what a knife was. And it was no longer just a tool, it's a weapon first, as opposed to being a tool that's a weapon occasionally. Mm-hmm. And when I went to school and when you went to school, we all carried knives.
Mm-hmm. I did in high school. I had a Spyderco Endura in my pocket.
Nobody gave it a second thought. Now, if you draw a picture of a knife, you end up expelled from school. It's insane. And I don't know how far we can get at fixing that ridiculousness, but we have proven that we can fix it so that people can carry any knife they want, that it is the criminal who is prosecuted for hurting somebody as opposed to simply carrying a tool.
There's that great example in Chicago a couple years ago where some woman gets off the subway, some guy pulls a box cutter on her, two good Samaritans come up and save her with what is an illegal knife. Yeah. Luckily there was prosecutorial discretion in that case and they didn't go after the guys, but you got a criminal with a legal knife and a good Samaritan with an illegal one, and look what happens.
In Phoenix, where I live, we had a good Samaritan pull a samurai sword on a criminal who was trying to... So, what I like to tell people, and we explain this to legislators all the time, knives are tools that are used by millions of Americans every day, at home, at work, recreationally. But every once in a while, they're used as a weapon. They're used as an arm. And that's protected by the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. The Second Amendment doesn't say firearms. Mm-hmm. It says arms. And certainly when it was written, knives were an arm that everyone carried. Mm-hmm. So, to one group of people, we talk about the Second Amendment. To another group of people, we talk about tools. And what is extraordinary about our success is that when you look at the votes on our bills, it's a better than 10-1 majority that vote in favor. Now, you do not get that by only getting conservatives or Second Amendment supporters. You get that because the vast majority of people that we speak to, when it's explained to them, get it. This is a tool. How it opens, how long it is, doesn't matter. It's just a tool.
Sort of, I guess, going back to where we talked about we were 15 years ago, what was the germ that started all of this? Like, what were you sitting around with a couple of guys and
Nope.
introduced that, or is it just...
Nope. It was an article that ran in the Wall Street Journal, headline B section, and it's on the Knife Rights website. There's a link to it. And it was all about these evil tactical knives. And it was pretty much like every bad article you have ever read about assault rifles, except substitute tactical knives. And it was terrible. There wasn't an ounce of truth to this article. And the poster child for their evil tactical knife was a Buck Metro. Okay?
Which obviously haven't seen some of the customs.
For anyone who doesn't know, a Buck Metro has a little 1-inch blade and a bottle opener on it. But it is a one-hand opening knife, and it does have a locking blade, so by their definition, it was an evil tactical knife. And what happened was, I got pissed. And I had an epiphany that there was no NRA for knife owners. There was a industry organization, but they didn't respond to that article.
We can edit something.
Okay. There was an industry organization, but they didn't respond to that article till weeks had gone past. There was no proactive grassroots organization out there preventing what had happened in Europe and England, where I had traveled and seen where knife owners are ostracized and the kind of knives that everyone carries in America are illegal. And I decided maybe we should try to do something about that. And I posted up on a couple of the knife forums on the internet. I said, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? And, people seemed interested. And that was what launched Knife Rights. Cool. Doug got pissed. and there was obviously a big niche to be filled. Mm-hmm. And it took us a while to get our feet underneath us and get rolling.
What was the first major success?
The first major success was when U.S. Customs tried to essentially say that assisted opening and one-hand opening knives were switchblades. Okay. And that was a group effort between Knife Rights, the American Knife and Tool Institute, NRA, a bunch of organizations. And we succeeded against all odds at getting the fifth exemption to the Federal Switchblade Act passed, which clearly exempted one-hand opening and assisted opening knives from being considered switchblades. That was a huge victory. And then shortly after that, we started with our state legislation. And New Hampshire first, where we repealed the first repeal ever of a switchblade, dirk dagger, and stiletto ban. And then in Arizona, we passed the nation's first knife law preemption bill. And that was really, and we've just gone on since then.
What's been your biggest setback, would you say?
Wow, that's a really hard question.
I've been thinking like what happened just down in Texas and... but the gravity of what was lost isn't as much as losing preemption the last time around or something. Yeah. I mean, we can come back to it. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of a... So
I don't like to talk about disappointments because one of our secrets of success is we don't take no for an answer, and we're stubborn. If we don't get it this year, we'll get it next year. And we will keep coming back till we get it. And that has worked. Tennessee is a good example. Texas is a good example. We got switchblades ban repealed the first year. Okay, we didn't get everything we wanted this year, but we did get preemption, which was vitally important. And we will be back next session, and we will get it done. We don't give up.
I know you don't like to talk about your future plans, because you don't want the other side to battle space prep and be ready for you. You'd rather catch them on
Right.
their heels. That being said, what is the ultimate brass ring for you?
I think the ultimate brass ring is pretty straightforward. That anyone in the United States can carry any knife they want without being worried about being arrested. And we've got a lot of states to go, and we've got the Federal Switchblade Act, but those are all, I believe, attainable. You know, every success we have opens more opportunities. You know, our biggest challenge is raising enough money to take advantage of those opportunities, because every one of these bills that we work on takes thousands of dollars. I mean, beyond just Todd's contract as our lobbyist, the cost of travel for this is extraordinary. You don't get 2 weeks notice that you're going to have a hearing. You get 24 hours notice. And it's not unusual for a plane ticket for Todd to cost over $1,000. And that happens time and time and time again, and it adds up. It is not cheap to protect our freedom. I mean, I think we give people an incredible return on their investment when they donate to us, but our freedom doesn't come free. You have to pay for it. You have to have the money to fight the fight in the capitals with somebody on the ground. That's the secret of our
Because
success.
Nanny Bloomberg can write a check that would offset your budget, operating budget.
Yeah. I mean, luckily, Nanny Bloomberg hasn't focused on knives yet, but it is, any way you approach it, the fact is you have to have somebody there. And the only way to have somebody good there is to have someone on staff. Like, we have our contract lobbyist, Todd Ritter, who's our Director of Legislative Affairs. He goes to the Capitol. He spends time in the Capitol. In Texas this year, he spent a total of 4 weeks in Texas. And at the end of this last month, he was there for 9 solid days through tornadoes and, you know, reign of biblical proportions. He was there fighting for it. That's how we get things done. And it's the only way to get things done.
And tying into that, because I kind of think I know the answer to some degree, but one of our readers asked, what do you say to the people who live in what we call non-free states that are obviously on your bucket list at some point, but maybe not right there? What do you say to the people who are members of knife rights but don't see they're getting the return to their state necessarily?
We're coming. The folks that contribute to our success today are paving the way for our success in their states eventually. You know, if 40 states allow something, it becomes a lot more difficult for those last 10 to say no. And this is no different than what happened with firearms law preemption that the NRA started 2 decades ago. You know, they're low-hanging fruit, the stuff in the middle that you really have to fight for, and then you drag those last few through because, you know, at that point they don't have any arguments. It worked in all these other states. Blood did not run in the streets, and they've lost their one argument that if you pass this, people are going to die. We know that doesn't happen. We now have proof that doesn't happen. So, to the folks in Massachusetts and other places that feel like they'll never get it, we're coming to help you. It's going to take a while, but we will be there.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. I really appreciate it. I've appreciated getting to know you this weekend and over the last year over email and such. And
my pleasure.
Thank you for all your good work. And I'll try to keep
I've
spreading the word too.
enjoyed watching the blog grow, and you mature into really a force in the knife world.
That is quite a compliment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Doug Ritter, Knife Rights.